We're live. Hi, all. I would like to thank you for joining us. We're going to wait like 2 minutes to see if people join, but thank you for joining us. This is our second installment of Black Women in History, and we have the lovely Antoinette Houston. We're going to wait like 2 minutes to see if people join, but thank you for joining us. This is our second installment.
Very nice to be here. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for agreeing. I can't wait to join, to dive into history, to learn a little bit more about you. So we got some people live already. Hi.
Hello, everyone.
You can say hi in the chat so we know you're there.
Hey, I'm actually going live as well on Facebook. So hello to everyone that's on Facebook Live as well and experiencing this with me. I appreciate it. Hello, everyone.
We're going to wait about 1 more minute so we can get some more people to join, and then I'm going to do an intro, and we're going to dive into the interview. Are you excited?
I am.
Yeah.
I am. Never know what I may say.
Right.
Do not know, but no, it's going to be good. And I definitely thank you for just the platform, you know, once again. And I'm excited. Definitely.
Yeah, so like the girls love to see, you know, different women doing things, doing big things in the tech industry. And, you know, like women, young women can really aspire to like enter these fields when they see, you know, girls that look like them in it. So.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, let me see how many people we got here. Nobody's chatting. Okay, we got a few viewers though. So we're gonna start, and I'm gonna start with your intro. We have Antoinette Houston. Hi.
Hi.
So Antoinette is a multifaceted, strategic, multidisciplinary user experience engineer and author with an eye for detail and innovation. So basically, she's those people who, like, when you see the website, she makes sure it's usable, it looks good, it's friendly, it's clean, it's attractive, and you can use it properly, right?
Yes.
Am I right? Okay. So, she has 15 years of STEM under her belt. She's the co-author of Improve It, so you guys go out and pick that book up soon. And she's a highly impactful guide towards product and business user experience and data analytics. Antoinette has also worked and helped build the user experience practices for various clients such as SeaWorld, Allstate, Dell, CIA, United Airlines, Motorola, Northern Trust, Food Network, and Travel Channel, just to name a few. So really big names. So she's worked with all these big names. She's also a neo-soul lyricist, actress, and model.
Yes.
So she has a wide range of experience. Anything else you want us to know?
You know what? I'm all about, it's like, yes, I've done all of these things, right? But I'm all about just being limitless and labelless, right? Because I think we're all more than just what that title or destiny or, you know, title says, right? So I'm a daughter, I'm a sister, I'm a friend, right? I'm all of these different things. And I think we all are to some degree. So yeah, I think throughout the interview, people will learn a little bit more about me, but I'm definitely a Jane of a few trades.
We see. That's awesome. I mean, it's awesome for people to know too. Like, just because you're in tech doesn't mean like you're this nerd, right? That's just behind the computer all day and that's all you do. Like, you have a lot going on. So can you tell us a little about your present technical position? Like, what's your day-to-day like there? So tell us about that.
So my 9 to 5 right now, I am a senior lead user experience research design engineer, as a long title, for United Airlines. And so what that means is I lead various research efforts for airport operations. So just helping our agents within the lobby, within the gate, TSA, et cetera, just help them serve us better, right? Our customers, like we're all customers, we've all traveled before. And so helping them with the different platforms and technologies that they use to get customers along their way on their travel experiences. So again, involved in the research of all of that. I'm involved in just redesigning their different tools, both on the desktop or laptop, mobile devices, you know, et cetera. So.
And what led you into that career? How did you get into that?
Oh, long story or short, let's kind of go like in the middle, right? Because it's actually a pretty interesting story. But I started off computer science at Illinois State. Went there for a couple of years, and the program at the time was very centered towards you have to be a developer if you were computer science. And though I liked development, I didn't love it, right? So I wanted to find something that I could just had a bigger passion for. I ended up transferring to DePaul after a couple years, and they had this major at the time called Human Computer Interaction. It's called something different now. And I was like, okay, this sounds interesting. And so the whole first class that I took was just about, in my mind, common sense, right? Like just about not just developing programs, but designing them for the user and what that means. But coming from a developer's background, it wasn't common sense because honestly, I didn't care about the user. As long as the program was functional, I was fine with it. But that class just taught me to look deeper and think about just different processes along the way in terms, not just the look and feel and making it pretty, but what is that experience for the user as they're going on that website or using that software, right? One class turned into a major turned into a degree. And from there, you know, so many years later, I'm still, you know, working and loving just what I do. But it started from development and then grew from there.
So that's awesome to know. A lot of people think that if you learn to code or you go in tech, it's only coding. So it's good to know like there are a lot of different avenues, a lot of different things you can do. And even if you learn how to code, doesn't mean you have to like just be a coder. So that's awesome.
And it's a good foundation, right? Because I work with a lot of different development teams, both sometimes sitting right next to me to offshore, you know, resources in India. So it's like having that background, I can talk the talk, right? So if I'm trying to design something and they say, well, this is not feasible, if I know that particular programming language or that technology stack, I can say, well, actually, you could do this or you could do that, right? So it gives you more options to kind of help debate that no that a lot of times developers will try to give you, especially from a UX perspective. So.
Awesome. Dope. So next question is, so far, what has been your favorite part of your career? Like what has been your most rewarding experience so far?
Actually, two. So starting from the most recent on down, my career at the CIA actually was very enlightening. Obviously, I can't talk a lot about it. You know, just the fact that I can say that I worked there is probably enough. But it was definitely a situation where coming from, you know, I was born on the west side, grew up on the south side of Chicago, and being that young brown girl from those areas and being able to say that I work for organizations such as that, even now, it just mind boggles me, you know, to know the work that I did for them. So that will, to today, that's probably number one. And just helping the agents in the field with just a variety of different programs and technologies to just keep us safe and keep the mission a positive one. Let's just say that. And so then the next,
you're like a secret agent. You were like,
I'm just saying what I'm saying, and I'm gonna keep it at that. But the second highlight, one of my first jobs, technically it was my third one, but the first job I really remember was when I was working for Allstate Insurance, the corporate office out in Northbrook. And at the time, I had never had a manager or never even seen management that looked like me, right? And I had great managers, right? But they were all like white men and they were great, but it was Allstate gave me that first experience of like, wow. And it was not just my direct manager, it was her manager and her manager and her manager, all looked like me and all had these fascinating backgrounds. And so that was the one time where I just remember just feeling just a different sort of empowerment in the workplace. Because even now, there are more women, but there's still not a lot of women of color that work with the user experience for whatever reason. So yeah, those two experiences and those two industries really stand out. So.
Okay. Dope. I know what you mean, because like I used to be a mechanical engineer, never really saw anybody like me. And then I came to ComEd and everybody, all the engineers look like me. I was like, wow, like, so yeah. I definitely know what you mean.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that you went to Illinois State and you went to DePaul. And I know DePaul is like really stand out for computer-centered degrees.
Mm-hmm.
Could you tell us a little bit about your college experience, like what your classes were like, maybe like professors, and just what school life was like in general?
At DePaul specifically?
You can talk about both institutions.
Okay. So Illinois State initially, again, my background was CS, and the way that their program was set up, it was just mainly you were developing, right? So I was coding in C++, and I didn't really have much of a work life or school life balance at that time, right? It was, I'm in a computer lab 6 hours making sure this program run, right? And going to sleep and doing it all over again. And so I had to figure out how to find that balance. And so the second half of that freshman year was when I had, the stereotypical sort of freshman life, nothing too crazy, but I was actually able to relax a little bit and just really, figure out what it is I wanted to do and how I wanted to do it, and just manage my time a lot better. And second year, same thing, it was all about balance. But again, I knew I didn't love it. I liked it, but I didn't love it. By the time I got to DePaul, it was a different experience because Illinois State allowed me to kind of be away from home, but not too far away from home. And I wanted that. I wanted to get that. I think everyone should have that experience, just kind of going, even if you come back, just go away, experience that, just to see something of more than your 2 or 3 block radius, right? But at DePaul, by that time, I knew what I wanted, right? I at least knew I was going to get very serious on some level of engineering, whether it was software or UX or whatever. And so I stayed at home. I didn't do the whole staying on campus thing. A lot of my classes were downtown versus Lincoln Park. So it was like, okay, let me just commute and work and do that. And that experience was interesting because I got to see so many different races of people at DePaul that I didn't see, ironically, at Illinois State. And I don't know if that's because DePaul is more of a transient sort of school, but yeah, I mean, so many different people and so many different backgrounds and cultures. And it just made me grow as not only a woman, but just as someone in the engineering field, and just learning to think different about different ways to do things. So I appreciate both experiences that I got from the partying at Illinois State, and just that whole culture with just Black people. And just like, it was a subculture of just fun and just being yourself and expression. I mean, I got into open mics at Illinois State and just, dance troops. And I mean, it was just a whole different experience versus DePaul was like, okay, wow, like what type of woman are you going to be? Like what type of engineer are you going to be? What type of professional are you going to be? And so I think both make me who I am today. So.
Dope. Cool story. And it's cool to have like both experiences. So why do you think more young Black women should consider your field, or even older Black women, maybe if they're considering a different field? Like what interests you, and what do you think would interest more people too?
Yeah, the one thing about user experience, at least back in the day, and we're talking 2001, 2002, when I got my degree, it was, what is this? Like, are you a Java developer, or like, what are you doing? And so it was really difficult to find work, right? And so thank God I had the development background, because my first job out of school was with Motorola, and it was a programming position. It was a network software, network engineering position, coding software. So it was a good thing I had that, because, but the one thing I love about user experience is, and what I would tell other, women, Black women, et cetera, is that it's people sometimes hear the word engineering and get scared, right? They get fearful, especially coming from, I'm part of NSB as well, as you probably know, National Society of Black Engineers. And people still would hear that and say, oh, well, I'm a math major, I can't be in NSB. I'm an IT major, I can't be in NSB, which that really wasn't the case, at all. So I think the one thing with the US that I found is that it's just so many different avenues you can go in within engineering. If you want to do more testing and more usability testing, you can do that. If you want to be more on the research side, more on the design side, if you want to be a UI developer, a consultant, whatever you want to do, you can do it within this field. And so nowadays, a lot of companies, it's almost like the trend of the day now to hire a UX person, because everyone thinks they can do it. But it really is a specialized field that I think that if you have a passion for it, and you really take the time to hone in and learn the processes, sky's the limit. So, yeah.
So like, what skills do you think would make a good UX designer? Like, what are some good skills that people should have?
Well, it's twofold. I think from a soft skill perspective, you definitely have to be a good listener. Because you're involved with just users a lot, right? So the user is not like me. I don't use the software like you may use the software, right? So being able to really hear what those pain points are, what they want, what they desire, what they don't want, what's ailing them right now in terms of the program, whether it's, again, mobile app or a website, right? So definitely a good listener, definitely a good communicator to be able to not only listen, but communicate back, right? Verbally, as well as showing them the designs that you've come up with, or even the research that you've conducted as a result of listening to what they want. And that's across the board, right? Because you're communicating with users, end users, you're communicating with stakeholders, you're communicating with management, different business users, development teams that English may not be their first language. So you have to be able to just be very open to different communication styles and listening styles, and asking questions, not being afraid to ask questions, another soft skill too. From a technical perspective, you definitely, I would say to have some sort of development background, because again, you're working with development teams. So even if you don't want to actually code something, being able to say, hey, I know the language, I know the lingo, I know what you're saying, I know what that means. That's a huge win, because I think sometimes within this major, you can, sky's the limit in terms of, well, I want a button over here and a link over here and this, and it's like, but is it really technically feasible? Does it make sense, right? So knowing the language and then, yeah, I mean, I think it depends on, at that point, what lane you want to go down. Like, you can go research, you can go design. If you want to be more on the research side, then those soft skills are going to be really important. And then really being able to take a lot of good notes, right? You have to be very detail oriented, and because you're in the field a lot, right? You're in the field, you're talking to users, you're taking those observation, heuristic evaluations, all of these different things. So you have to have an analytical mind behind that to know that they may say this, but mean that. Right? And that's just across the board. If you're going on the design side, yeah, you have to take a lot of different design classes, right? Graphic design, visual design, typography, and just look at how different elements look on a page, look on the screen, and what that means to be mobile first versus on actual desktop or layout, and how that varies, right? And understanding that variance. So it really just, one, you have to make a decision as to what lane, and then within that lane, figuring out, let me make sure that my skill set is up to par within that lane. If that makes sense.
No, absolutely.
No, absolutely. Cool.
Dope. So, getting echo. So I want to transition more into your hobby.
Okay.
If you can tell us about your book project, and you're a lyricist, so you rap. Tell us a little bit more about that.
I just try to do it all, Maisha. I'm just saying. Okay, so the book project. The book is called Improve It. And for my Facebook people, it's called Improve It. And I'm a co-author of this particular book. I was working for a consulting company called Bright Star Consulting. And at the time I was writing UX blogs, and one of my managers, he just really liked my writing ability and the way I just put different stories together as it related to technology. So just making it more relatable to maybe that non-technical sort of, viewer or reader. And he just asked me, he said, well, I'm working with a company called Web Trends, and they're working on a book. And I was involved with another initiative last year, but I wanted to know if maybe you would be open to co-writing a chapter of this book with me. Yeah, sure, right? So yeah, I jumped on it, and this whole book is about Bright Star. The company is they're a SharePoint. They're a SharePoint usability or user experience consulting firm. And if you know anything about SharePoint, you know that usually SharePoint and user experience is not in the same sentence. People don't necessarily like using SharePoint. They feel like it's hard to use, confusing, mundane, boring, etc. But Bright Star would create these platforms that just made SharePoint fun. And so this book was all about, it's like a collection of essays on how to use different data analytics from both a qualitative perspective of how the user feels as they're going through different experiences, to more of a quantitative perspective of what's the actual data points that you need to look at, right, when you're building a web application or content management system such as SharePoint. So that was what our chapter was about, just focusing on data analytics and web and overall web usability as it applied. So yeah, it's out on Amazon. I don't get any money for it per se, but definitely still, you know, buy it and support it. And yeah, and my name is, you know, on the back as a contributor. So that's always a huge.
Support the book, guys.
When from a music perspective, so I started off as a poet, right? And poetry did me well. It allowed me to go in so many different avenues. It actually gave me my first TV spot with BET and TV1 for the My Black is Beautiful campaign, and also on TV1 for their Verses and Flow platform that's on HBO. And so it was great, right? I mean, I traveled the world. I did slam poetry. I did standard sort of spoken word. I was part of a group here in Chicago called All Hype City, where I was doing theater and just all type of improv shows. And it just really was like amazing. But I wanted to do more, right? I wanted to do more with the poetry. And I ended up meeting my producer, Ty Hill. And he said, yo, you know, your flow could really serve well in like music. Like, have you ever thought about being a rapper? I'm like, not really, because the stereotype is you have to be, you know, a tomboy, you know, or you got to be overly sexual, or you got to be political, or, you know, and I didn't necessarily fit nicely in any of those lanes, right? But he was like, yo, just be you, just be. And that's okay, let's try it out. 8 months later, Love States was born, and I released it last year. It's 9 tracks on here. And I worked with some amazing people. Allegra Dolores is one phenomenal just funk group out here. 2 sisters, good friends of mine. Sharon Young and Paris Jones, amazing vocalists locally here in Chicago. Aaron Isaiah, who's living in Atlanta now, he was on The Voice. I mean, you know, it's amazing artists that are on here. And it's just all about the different states that I feel like we go through, right, and grow through when we're in love and out of love, and in lust and out of lust. And it's just a very relatable CD. It's a clean CD. It's no cursing or anything. I like to make music that a 6-year-old or a 60-year-old can listen to.
You got a sample for us?
Sample
for us?
Oh, wow. Let's see, a sample. I should be prepared, right? Let's see. You know what? I won't necessarily do something off of this because it's
okay.
Yeah, but I'll spit a little something. I am a fraction of we, but that she be me, and I'm beautiful. The black on my back reflects how suitable. See, understand, we gotta stand for our style, man. Forget the norm, why conform, just profile, man. You see these words I give, I still smell the newness, and the pride that's inside, I celebrate. You knew this, but for those who clueless, all you gotta do is keep being the wonderful, beautiful, incomparable you. I appreciate that. I appreciate
that. Okay.
Yeah.
Getting everything on this interview.
Getting everything. Yeah, get everything.
You have a lot going on in your day. Like, how do you manage? How do you structure and fit everything in?
You know, it's extreme time management. I always say my days are probably 28 hours versus 24. But it's you know what? It's funny because like I just got signed to this modeling agency, so clap it up for that. I'm really excited about that. And so I needed an agency to help me balance some of the other artistic work that I was trying to do, right? So they actually represent me on the modeling side as well as the music side. So I'm like, okay, cool. Now I have someone who can kind of do some of that work for me, because before it was just me. Right? Everything from making sure my website was up to date, to being in the studio, to making sure my projects were done at work, to you got to do live performances if you're going to be a local, or not even local, just an artist in general. Right? You got to stay relevant. To writing, you got to have content. So it's always me trying to carve out an hour, 2 hour, 3 hour of something, of one of those parallels, right? And so the agency is definitely helping me with at least the artist side. From the work perspective, I try to keep the 9 to 5 within 9 to 5, right? Meaning that I try not to bring the work home with me if I can help it. And because at the end of the day, there will be another day, hopefully, right? And you can always get it done then. So, but yeah, I mean, I come home, I try to eat, try to play with my doggy, as I was mentioning earlier, for at least 30 minutes. That's like my little dog child. I may get some writing in for about another hour, hour and a half. I try to do an hour of just maybe just just nothingness, whether that's reading, whether that's TV, whether that's talking on the phone, just something with just Antoinette time. And then the last couple hours, you know, again, if I get inspired to write something, I will. I don't force that. And yeah, and if I'm done, if it's nothing to do, I don't force that either. I don't say, well, let me try to jump something else in. No, it's done for the day. You know, so.
Okay, dope. So the last question is like, where do you see yourself going in the future? And like, what's your life mission?
Wow, that's a deep one. So my life's mission is just to be, you know, be greater, better, smarter, sillier, humble, you know, just to be whatever it is God has in my life to be. You know, I tried to plan a lot of stuff in the past, and people always say, you think you have a plan, and then God's plan will turn around and smack you right in the face, right? So I just stopped doing that, right? I have very lofty goals in terms of where I would like to see myself, but I don't want to limit myself, right? So I'm always about just being limitless and just saying, hey, I want to do X, but if Y and Z happens too, I'm totally fine with that, right? But I'm never complacent. I think that it's something beautiful about just, people always say it all the time, right? Just staying on your grind and always figuring out how to just have multiple streams of income. And I'm just always traveling somewhere. I'm never still. I'm never still metaphorically. I think sometimes, yeah, you do need to just kind of settle and relax, but I'm never still in mind, because I just feel like that breeds just complacency. It's a difference between that and being content. If you're content and happy, thumbs up. Okay. But if you're like, because you're just afraid, then that I just don't agree with that ideology. So I'm always moving, I'm always shaking, I'm always trying to better myself, I'm trying to better the people around me in my circle. I'm always trying to get different circles, right? To just figure out what else I could be doing that I'm not thinking about. And so I think my mission again, yeah, is just to be, you know, just to be the best Antoinette that I can be. So I see myself in the future continuing to grow. I'm working on my next project. It's untitled right now, but hopefully it'll be released before the end of the summer or by the beginning of the summer. And yeah, I'm traveling, going to South Africa this year on some mission work, just to kind of like give back and just see that side of the world, right? I'm, you know, excited about that, and just, you know, just trying to be the best, you know, daughter and cousin and friend and, you know, girlfriend and everything that I can be to the people in my life. And I think that, because I think your life has to be more than work and writing and try, like it has to be more than that. So yeah, and hopefully God will give me, you know, the time to accomplish those things. So
before you say the closing words,
okay.
We have some viewers. So anybody have any questions for Antoinette before we close out? I see people have given you shout outs in the chat.
Oh, have they? I don't see it, so I don't know.
So it's like Jocelyn says, go beep, Southside. Southside. Amen to soft skills. So that's what we got so far. Any questions? Drop it in the chat so I can ask.
A lot of people are watching. They're really good friends of mine, probably. So they like, we have no questions for her because we know everything. But
yeah, I get parents that watch sometimes too, because they're like, get their kids to watch, like, hey, you need to be like her. So
exactly.
Okay, so no questions.
Okay.
So what is your parting words that you want to leave with everyone tonight?
Parting words. You know, for anyone who watches this, especially some of the you know, young ladies who may be thinking about getting into engineering, or who are in engineering and are maybe feeling a bit discouraged, you know, because of some of those classes and the timelines and deadlines. You know, again, I just would encourage them to, you can't pray and worry, right? So the one thing I would say is pray it away, keep God first, and just know that you can do it, right? Like stay consistent, stay, just stay on your grind or whatever. You need help, ask for that help. Yeah, there are resources out here. There are people like me that are looking for mentees, right? To say, hey, let me put you under my wing or whatever, because I know how it is to just want that help from, again, someone who looks like me and just not seeing it, right? So I always try to make myself available for that. You can contact me on my website, www.iamtoine.com. It's IAMTOINE.com, and just hit me up and I'll definitely respond back. But more so too, things are going to happen along the way that are going to try to deter you. And this is for anyone, whether it's engineering or whatever your field is. I have a little sister right now who's in school, and she was telling me the other day, like, I'm staying, what's the word she used? I can't think of the word, but basically focus. Like, I'm staying focused, sis, on, and it really touched me, because a lot of times life will happen, especially with everything going on here in Chicago, life will happen to try to knock your focus away. And so what I would say is, whenever those things happen, whether it's from your family, your friends, your boyfriend, your girl, whatever it is, just make sure that you're doing whatever you're doing for you, right? You have to sometimes be your own motivator. Don't look for those outside entities to tell you to go to class or tell you to go to work it's like you have to be able to do that yourself. Because if you don't like you, if you don't love you, no one else will. So that's the one thing that I would tell to anyone who's listening, looking at this, etc. Just be you, be great, and it'll be okay. Promise.
All right. That is awesome.
Cool.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
To have you again, especially when you release your album. And there it is, folks, another Black woman making history. So join us again next week, same time. And she gave you the contact information. I'll drop it in the email for everyone who has registered. And thank you.
Cool. Thank you so much again. I appreciate the time. And I'm glad that you're doing platforms like this just to give people like myself just another voice. So thank you, sister.
Thank you. So I'm stopping the